Welcome everybody to episode. You guys are lucky number 13. So yeah, this hopefully this goes better than. But lucky number 13, episode 13, We the Parents podcast. My guests are Bakari and Julia Booten. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And you guys actually have your own podcast that you just got started, and you're having some real conversations about some of the stuff that we talk about here on this show, not only about relationships, but custody battles and law and relationships and things that I think that somehow we've lost along the way as far as communication goes, and very transparent with both your faults and your growth, which is something that I like to do also. But I want you guys to introduce yourselves first, kind of tell us who you are, and then I'm going to kind of show the video clip that came up on my Facebook. I'm not sure how it came up. I don't know if it was sponsored or how it came up. Facebook algorithms wanted us to hang out. So I'm going to show that video after you guys introduce yourselves. So go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Bakari. We started a podcast. This is my wife, Julia. We started a podcast maybe 3 months ago because we were going through so much drama and turmoil, and there weren't a lot of resources to go. And a lot of the information we were getting were just from friends or other people who had gone through it. So we decided that we were going to start a podcast because we had two very different upbringings. Like, I was going through the custody battles and all those things by myself for a while, but my wife was new. She had no kids. She just came on and kind of like saw how it went firsthand and had her eyes open to the experience. So we're telling the story from a seasoned veteran and, kind of like a rookie to the game. So we thought it'd be a great idea. It's kind of therapeutic. It's really just there to give people who don't know where to go, like my experiences, the things I did right, the things I did wrong.
Right.
And her experience as a stepmom and as somebody new to it, the things she did right and the things she learned along the way as well. Mm-hmm. So that's my part of it. And I'll let you tell a little about yourself.
Yeah, Julia.
It's just basically a place to safely talk about these issues. We feel like there isn't much out there, and there are Facebook support groups. There are things that definitely get the conversation started. But for the most part, it feels like people aren't talking about these very huge topics that seem to plague all of our lives. So we decided, let's just open up the conversation. Let's have, an open forum of just people who are going through similar situations. Every time I speak about my situation to friends, family, in the workplace, anywhere, they all seem to have their own experiences that mirror mine. And we each have so much in common, and no one's talking about it. So we figured it'd be a good way to start.
Do you think the biggest thing that's going on, let's just talk about media and especially the things that have been, this has definitely been a slow process of manipulation, I believe. And I'm no surprise I'm wearing my Victims of Family Law t-shirt, and I'm very much a libertarian and I'm very much a voluntarist. But the whole government system and media and things that we've sort of been, I would say, herded like cattle into almost butting heads with a lot of policy and a lot of media and a lot of racism. We're rekindling racism because, I guess the small pockets that have existed in this country still, we're starting to stoke those fires again. And we're also creating a gender war, and we're getting men to fight women, and women hate being women and they want to be men, and boys don't want to be boys. And it seems almost like it's engineered for chaos. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. I think one of the things that I like to talk about most is the system in which things like child support, custody battles, all these things exist. It's a multi-billion-dollar organization and corporation. It's ran like a business because it has to be. It'll be really hard to find people who are thinking like, okay, let's shut this down when there's lawyers getting rich. Every single divorce, there's a lawyer, making $25,000 and at the minimum. So it's really hard. It'll be really hard to go, because I always wonder, like, why is this still going on? Why is no steps being made to correct these things? But then when I started looking at the numbers and looking at the divorces per year or the custody battles per year, some couples go 3, 4. Like myself, I've been to court 5, 6 times for the same thing, and that's a lawyer every time, and that's paying the fees to turn in documents, like turn in paperwork, and it's confusing on purpose.
Yes.
There's no way you can tell me it's not that confusing.
And they make it almost like, so if you try to do it yourself, they go back and tell you, yeah, you did it wrong, almost to the point where you're frustrated that you just go, I'll just pay an attorney.
That happened 3 times to me.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that you need to get it right. And it's the kind of thing you're already stressed over. So you don't want to add more stress. You're just going to hire a lawyer and you're going to pay out of pocket $15,000. And now what? And that's just for one meeting.
Yeah.
They've one case to go to court.
They've complicated it tremendously with the most absurd, you got to know case law and this and procedures and it's nonsense. It's all so that you get frustrated, that you don't want to handle it yourself. They allow you, if you do go in there to handle it yourself, to get destroyed. And that will make me go, well, I don't want that to happen again, because you don't want to deal with that trauma. And so you pay a lawyer who will most likely drag it out at least for two deposits. So the first 10 grand will get you to the door. That's what happened to me. And then right when we get to trial, something happens and we're going to need another retainer. They try to get at least 2 to 3 retainers and just collect billable hours.
This is the first time we're talking about this, and you're reciting my exact story verbatim. Just soon as we got to court, he's like, your money ran out. We're going to need a new retainer so I can go in there and fight for you.
Yeah, right. All that was getting it to the door. That's exactly what he said.
I guess all the first 6 grand was just getting you to the door?
I think you got one of their business cards and a pen.
Yep.
And then they're like, all right, 6 grand. All right, well, now I'm going to start doing some work, and I'm going to charge you by the hour, which is anywhere between a cheap lawyer is about $250 to $300. That's like someone new who's cutting you a deal. And then all the way upwards to $500, $600 an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And they charge you for what they do is they don't really answer any of your questions, the first phone call, and then you have to call them back and they charge you twice when we just wanted to answer the first phone call.
No, don't you remember you sent them an email and they said, you don't have enough money left in your retainer for me to answer your question. So please refill the retainer. Like
it's a credit on a video game.
Yeah. It's insane.
So what I want to do is, before we go into more conversation, I want to share this video because, one, I want you guys to go to, The Struggle is Real podcast on Facebook. You guys also are on Spotify, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you got to show me how to do that. I think I need to get these audios put on Spotify as well. But
definitely, I got you.
I'm going to show this clip and just want everybody to listen. This was how I was introduced to you two. So as soon as I heard it, and I loved your shirt, and
I meant that with everything in me.
And I was like, all right, there's this guy and this girl, and then I find out, okay, they're husband and wife. And she's a stepmom, he's a dad, he's going through the struggles. And these two people are talking about how they've made mistakes and they're trying to change it and make it better and move forward from a bad situation. But the system won't let you, and it keeps incentivizing this fight. And there's always, it only takes one high conflict parent to continue the fight. And it's usually one that was the most unhealthy. Not that it usually takes 2 to tango, but as we discussed, usually one will finally wave that white flag. Bakari, I know that you were probably that one eventually. You participated in the stuff, and then finally, I think we start to grow a little bit and go, okay, this is insane. And as well as myself, I finally said, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being a monster. I don't want to fight with you. I want better for myself and our kids and for you. But when you break up, it's one wants a war and the other one is just dodging bullets. And so this is the video. I'm going to share this with everybody and show everybody how I was introduced to you guys. So here we go.
Because say you have a 7-year-old kid, Christmas comes around and you pay. I have a friend who pays $900 a month for one kid. $900 a month for one kid, and he still has to have this kid, and I think he has them 3 days a week. He has them on the weekend and then one day during the week. And in that time, he's not going to have as much money as his mom does because they both work.
So his mom ends up getting him better presents.
Yeah. And when Christmas comes, he's not going to understand, like, sorry, son, I had to give your mom, $1,000 for you. So, your Christmas gifts aren't going to be, no, he's still going to expect that Xbox, He's still gonna expect that PS5. He's still gonna want, all the stuff that his friends have when he's at your house, and all. He's not gonna understand, like, hey, Dad, I want to play football because they do that. Ask your dad. The mom will say some stuff. Oh, you want to play football? Ask your dad to sign you up and pay the fine, to pay the fee. And then he calls and asks.
You're the bad guy.
Yeah.
You say no.
Because you don't have it. It's like, well, I just gave her $1,000 for you. I don't understand what she's doing with this money. So, yes, you're going to have to pay more. Do I think you should? No. Because I never understood rent and all that stuff. Well, you would pay rent if you didn't have a kid anyway. Like, you wouldn't live in a cardboard box if you didn't have a kid. It's like, light bill, and you would still pay those bills anyway if you didn't have a kid. Now, I don't think you should pay nothing. I am not saying that. You should pay something for your kid, especially if you don't have it. Now, if you have them 50-50, I don't care how much she makes and you make, you should not pay child support. Yeah. But
yeah, if that was exactly what I've been reciting, and thousands of other fathers and mothers that I've spoken with. It's like we all get it, but the system gets it. They probably get it too, but they're not going to acknowledge it because, like you said earlier, this is an industry, and the industry is going to ignore the voices of these parents. They don't care that they're hurting our children because they're making so much money that they're using to pay for their kids' college, while my kids might be lucky enough to go to, community college, and maybe I can help them buy a car because I'm shelling out so much money on one end to keep someone who won't work hard afloat and raising my kids. So now you're putting two parents in poverty while the state actually recoups welfare money.
Yeah, it incentivizes a parent not to work because the less she works, the more money she gets. So getting a job would be like making no money at all. Like if I'm paying you $1,000 and you get a job getting $500 a month, but they're going to take $500 from me, then you're like, why would I do that? That's literally nothing, no reason.
So, Julia, what I always like to see, and I think it encourages a lot of fathers, is when you have either a stepmother or the new partner of the man who's being alienated or being abused. And you women are, thank you, first of all, who are giving men their voice coming from women and saying, hey, ladies, don't do that. Not cool. You're taking advantage of a poorly designed system, which is designed to get you to do exactly what you're doing at the expense of your children, and you're using your children as a weapon, wielding your feelings. Get your feelings fixed is what we should be saying. Get your feelings fixed and stop abusing your kids like you were abused probably growing up yourself.
It's like you took the words out of my mouth that I've literally told his ex. I legit said to her the same thing when we had a huge fight / conversation, if you will, that turned out okay in the end, meant nothing later on, but we digress. And I literally said that. I said, you're using the girls. Why are you using the kids to fight your own battles against your ex-husband? This has nothing to do with them. Absolutely nothing. Because the things you are bringing up is just things you're feeling, not them. And you're putting your feelings onto them. And that's just, a whole story in and of itself. We could talk about how their feelings will then later on affect their kids on how they feel about the other parent. That's huge. Your feelings are going to affect them.
And talk about, I know, I can rattle off a few just from my own experience. Julie and Bakari, tell us what, those feelings when you articulate, hey, look, you need to, I think you're just upset. This is not how we should handle things. What are the things that usually get spit back? What are the things that you've heard either from your ex, your experience, your friend's experience, my experience? What are the justifications for this type of emotional and financial abuse? What are these women and some men?
This is easy.
What do they say? Let's just rattle them off.
I'll give you a couple of examples that happened to me specifically. So in the beginning, just the difference in between the way we handle our kids, because kids, especially growing up teenagers, they can be a little tricky. So in the beginning with our relationship, both my daughters are still are really. Both my daughters were super daddy's girls, I'll say. Always. I can't breathe without these two kids on my hips, on my shoulders, even now, like forever.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they would cry when they would have to leave. And this was like 2-3 years ago. They would cry when they would have to leave, and they never wanted to go over there, and they would feel so bad about having to leave. And they would just tell me all the time. And my response, being the responsible parent here, or trying to be anyway, is to tell them, hey, it's okay. You just go, try, be good, don't be any trouble, because it's not in my power to tell them that they can't. Like my rules here are my rules. Her rules there are her rules, nothing to be concerned about. So I sent her a message also, and just happened to say, hey, in passing, I saw that the kids were sad and they didn't want to go. And they said that when they're there, they don't do anything. They just stay in their room all day. So I don't want them I want them to have the same relationship with me as they have with you. My words verbatim. I don't want any issues or anything. You don't have to listen, but I'm just saying we just had a random conversation and they told me that. So because I care, I want you to know. And if you could, you should take them somewhere this weekend. And all this is in text messages, by the way. Always send messages. Don't ever just talk, because you need documents. But so I say all these things, and what I get back from saying that is, oh, you think you're holier than thou. You think because you're just now start co-parenting 50-50 that you can tell me F that, F you, still
Anger.
In messages that I can show you, like F that, F this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know where I went wrong. Now,
I can tell you where you went wrong, and this is my assumption is the same as when you stop reacting and you break away from the relationship and you start, I use the word healing myself, and start to take responsibility for me and you, and that someone can't make you respond to them negatively. They can't make you abuse them. And when you start to sort of get your power back, that infuriates a certain type of personality, whether it be narcissistic or borderline personality disorders. A lot of these people come from trauma. They thrive off this. It's well documented for decades now. Psychologists, clinical psychologists have done research on these type of abusive, alienating parents. Typically, they grew up in this behavior.
Which
they were either abused or they were spoiled rotten, which creates a narcissist either way, or a borderline. And I'm no expert. I just regurgitate what experts tell me. You can Google any of this information from credible, doctors and psychologists. But, how do we combat that? Well, the only way we can combat that is if we if they're going to behave this way, we have to go to the family court, the civil court. Well, as we know, there's nothing family or civil about the family law civil justice system. It is an adversarial court. Everyone and their mother has said you don't want a judge deciding what's best for you and your kids. And if you do, it's because you're abusive. No healthy person wants anyone else besides the two people, unless there's danger, abuse. Like abuse, not of the claimed abuse, but and we'll go into that too. But
awesome.
we got a lot to touch on. This might go over an hour. And that's why I wanted to have you guys.
I feel like we're not really going back and forth. Like I'm literally just agreeing. Yeah. I'm like you're saying what I like. This is it's not making for great debate here. But
so what's happening is we're going to these courts who know that these people are probably pretty sick. But the one healthy parent will continue to fight for their children. And what does that mean?
Money.
At least until you run out. Yeah. My ex's attorney knows that I ain't stopping, but I'm also not paying an attorney anymore. I'm going in pro se. And every time I mess up, I will write down what I need to fix, and I will go back in there again, and I will go back in there again, and I will do a podcast, and I will make a post, and my kids will see everything. And this will end with us. I may lose my years with my kids, but my kids won't lose years with theirs. And that is my goal.
Man, that's beautiful.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you might have, like you said, lost years while they don't understand what's happening.
Mhm.
But I know later on down the line, they will grow up to understand that you
Right.
fought for them the way that they should have been fought for.
Right.
And I know this because I've spoken to several of my friends my age now who have gone through this as kids and have now understood what their fathers have done for them. And I say fathers because it's literally what is happening to our kids now with
Mhm.
their mom and us has happened to a friend of mine. And she said, she was toxic. My mother was toxic. She did not want my dad in my life. And she kept lying about the things
Yeah.
that he did to me
Mhm.
or us or to her. And that's another thing. I don't like it when moms and dads bring up the past they had with the partner
Right.
to say how bad they are as parents. The
Right.
two don't mix. You can cheat on me. That does not make you a bad parent to my kid. It doesn't.
It makes you a
You're
jerk.
an awful husband and an awful partner, but you are not an awful dad, especially when you've told the person that they are good parents.
Right.
You cannot then go back just because I left the relationship.
Yeah.
You're not connected.
Well, and you notice there's and I've heard you guys make statements before where, it was about being in the relationship or out. It was literally like you're dealing with someone that's bipolar or multiple personality disorder, or literally the quality of your fatherhood was based on the quality of the relationship.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that is BS. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, I can document, you can ask my children, ask your children. I'm a great dad. Maybe I was a jerk. Yeah, she was a jerk. That's why we're not together anymore.
Exactly.
One wants to grow, the other one wants to deny. Fine. But you can't make a claim that someone's a bad parent because you aren't willing to grow on either spiritual lines or mental health lines, or you're incapable. And we have to realize that we are dealing with people that are constitutionally incapable. They literally need therapy and medication.
Well, I say the same thing. One of the biggest issues we had with our kid's mom is just moving on from what we were on. And when I say she tried everything, I mean everything. Every single milestone in our life was met with some kind of hostility or hard part. When we got together and it finally became serious, it was like, oh, she's white. I don't want. What I learned in the courts also.
You're so white, Julia.
Is that
so white.
Translucent. Yeah.
What I learned in court is that you can teach your kids racism and they don't care. I went in there thinking that, oh, this is a slam dunk. Like, she can't be teaching 8 and 7-year-olds racism. She can't teach them that white people are the devil. Literally say it in a text message. And I show the courts, like, this is what I'm unteaching my kids every week. And they just tell me that, well, her house is her house. You can't tell her who to love and who to think.
So ignorant.
How is that not grounds for at least an investigation or something?
Because here's my theory. They want our kids poisoned so that they wind up having kids in bad relationships and wind up keeping the cycle going and wind up in court in 15 years.
Yeah, we know they do this already with food and pharmaceuticals. Why not just do it with mentality?
Yeah, just do it everything.
Yeah.
You're creating clients by allowing unhealthy parents to father or mother kids.
You want the illusion of health, not actual health.
And you're also keeping parents impoverished. If one parent's not really pulling their weight financially, and you give the other parent all the parental responsibilities and the excuse not to work hard because they don't have to, and then you just transfer wealth from one to the other, the kids will live, but no one will ever thrive. And you've now made them both living on welfare. I can apply for welfare while I'm paying for child support because I don't make any money now. What a stupid system.
Wow.
That's what's crazy about it to me.
But you know who is making money? The people who write the laws, the lawyers, the attorneys. And if I can't pay my child support, they throw me in jail. That's a genius move.
That's another point I wanted to touch on. The fact that they go harder for men and women, but mostly men who don't pay child support than they do for people keeping kids away from men. If you went as hard as you did on a man for missing child support as you did for a woman for keeping a kid away, which to me is 3 times as worse. They wouldn't do it. I can go to jail for missing child support, but you can't go to jail My kid's mom literally took my kids away from me and
Right.
said, you can't see them, and made up some BS reason.
Right.
Oh, I'm worried about COVID. You literally had a party last week, a
'Cause
whole party.
Because
Not
there's
just
no
that.
money. There's no money in that.
I'm a literal nurse dealing with COVID patients, but one time we travel to go to a wedding, that's enough. Okay, no more kids for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, just because until we feel like it. And it's just a bunch of reasons all the time that we're back and forth in court. But
Yeah.
she does that and nothing happens. It's like, okay, we'll just take her to court and then we'll stiffen the rules. But then if I miss child support, it's like you go to prison or your credit's jacked up or
Or they take your license.
Yeah, or your driver's license. You can't work and you lose more money. How is it more?
We as parents, we are the new generation. I got to be honest, and this is going to sound cold. I've thought about this while in the shower. I'm not going to tell you about the other things I thought about in the shower, but like I've heard this said to me before, and it's just like, man, I can't wait till like Joe Biden dies and the rest of that generation. Like all of them.
I
can't wait till like the bureaucrats and political folks of the last, like we are coming forward and they are hanging on to their power and the next regime of their children who inherit the wealth and bureaucracy and corruption that they're going to create. But I really can't wait until this old 60s, 70s, 80-year-old rich, politicians. I can't wait till they all die. I got to be honest.
Crazy. Old rich people are determining our lives. Like they can't relate to us. Like even I was talking to my mom about that last week. She's like, I'm 70 plus years old. I can't relate to you guys. You wouldn't want me voting on what's going to happen in the next 30, 40 years. Like,
why is Joe Biden, a 78-year-old man, running this country? Why is a 40-year-old man not running this country? Or a 50-year-old man? Someone at least attuned, I don't know, with cognitive ability.
Getting rich, like literally 90% of your life. You don't know 80% of America isn't rich, so you can't relate to 80% of us.
The president of the United States should have made or worked making the average income
for at least a little while.
But it's never going to happen. They all follow the money.
Yeah, and every politician I think should have to earn whatever whatever your state is, whatever the median income is for your state. That's what you get paid.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God.
That'll give you
that'd be a nice world.
That'll give you an incentive to improve people's pay.
Exactly. Because it doesn't affect you. So why do you care? And they're sitting here. No wonder they can't figure out minimum wage or what to pay people or taxes, because it doesn't affect you. It's not something that matters to you in one way or the other, but you're voting on it for me, the poor guy.
Do you think it's accountability? Do you think that we're not holding our government accountable like we should be?
I think it's definitely accountability. I don't think we can hold them accountable until we come together. But as long as they keep this divide going, it's perfect. Like, why are there parties? Like, I think everyone should just vote for the best candidate. But they know that Republicans will typically vote Republican. Democrat will typically vote Democrat. And everyone will feel like, oh, I can't be an independent because you're just throwing your vote away. So
I voted and my candidate didn't win, but I voted correctly. I casted my vote because one of these two jerks are going to win, right? Doesn't matter to me which one really wins. Like I don't believe that one is better than the other. I think one is trying to be the opposite of it's a two-sided coin. They're selling you one's selling you chocolate, the other one's selling you vanilla, but really they're both like pistachio and they're gross. I want, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you to vote libertarian, but if you have family law issues and you don't look into the Libertarian Party, because let's not forget who created these policies. It wasn't just Democrats, although they have a heavy hand in it. Republicans are hand in hand. They're doing this back and forth dance so that the third party can't get in. So, that I switched. I was unaffiliated and went in to become a libertarian and in trying to introduce, that's what this show is about. Trying to introduce family law issues, custody battles, because really this is a root issue. This is a root issue that you guys have talked about it before as well. Behavioral issues, mental health, suicides, incarcerations, divorce rate, mass shootings, gangs, everything that is the problem with our society comes from destroying the family, period. There is no other issue more important. You want to get rid of racism and you want to get rid of gender bias. Stop ripping families apart.
Yeah,
wow, that's huge.
That just sounds so easy. Like I wish that like this was a million people changing their mind just from this episode. But the problem that we tend to face with that is that people have these stereotypes about it. Even when I talk to some people, the number one answer that makes me so angry when I tell people my story and I'm talking to people and we're going back and forth. Oh, okay. Well, why? Well, you should have never slept with the person. Well, it's your fault for marrying them. You think people walk around with a sign on their chest that says, "Hey, marry me, I'm crazy"? No, they don't.
Right.
You don't know.
They're usually
$50,000.
I mean, typically people who are abusive are selling you a different version of themselves when you first meet them. You know?
Wow, that's so true.
Hey,
that's so true.
Why don't you guys address this? And this is a big thing. Black communities are the worst when it comes to fatherless homes. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about where all this originated. And it is the Black community.
All originated in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, really, with Black communities are worse when it comes to fatherless homes.
Yeah.
With like the crack epidemic and the war on drugs and all these things. Like, honestly, if we want to get honest about this, we're specifically targeting Black communities. And not so much just the drugs. It was like, we're funding this war and we're funding, because war is big business and you're going to make billions of dollars in war.
Sure.
And it kind of like helps the economy. So we're like, we're going to do that. And at the same time, even Nixon once said, and Reagan are both on record for saying certain things about how this is going to target Black communities. And the drugs kind of like ripped away. And I remember my mom telling me about this when I was younger. Like she talked about, because she lived through this and my sister did. And my sister kind of went through a little bit of the crack thing because she's a little older than I am. So she was grown when this was going on. And she got addicted to drugs and had this full recovery. I'm super proud of her, but I digress. So they targeted Black communities and kind of ripped them apart. And then right at the point where it was kind of like the breaking point, they said, okay, well, now we're going to do DARE, like to keep kids off drugs, and we're going to crack down, and we're going to do 3 strikes laws. So you could go to jail for 25 years for having an ounce of crack, but get 3 months in jail for having cocaine. So
unless you're Hunter Biden and you can do all the crack.
Oh, well, then you can literally just do whatever you want to do at this point.
In Russia. Yeah.
Because he's white.
Yeah.
So
more than being white, he's
rich too.
He's rich, white.
He comes from
a long lineage of.
We're talking about a political system that has created monarchs and has created patriarchs, and this is essentially kings and queens. We just have a crap ton of them. They don't represent us. None of our government is representative of the people. There are a few.
I wonder, who are these people who think this is what's happening? Are there some people out there who are honestly so blind that they can't see that none of this is for you?
I think they want to be blind. We've talked about this. I think people are not ignorant to racism. I think they want to stay ignorant. I don't think they want
anything that they can't see. It's because they don't want to see it. Like, okay, these governments are not here to help you. Like, they want us fighting each other. They want us angry with each other. It's not anything that we should actually be doing.
Yeah.
But
they don't want us having this conversation. You in California, me in North Carolina, we're on 2 different coasts talking about the same issues. You know, you guys are married, a white woman and a Black guy, you know, and talking about how women are toxic too, when we've been told that men are scary and men are abusive. But that was only to sell the narrative in order to support the policies that create profit.
Exactly. And that's the thing with it. Even with like Section 8 and welfare and all of these things are just put in place to divide families. And they teach you these things. Man, men are abusive. Men are bad. Get the men out of the house. Raise your kids. You can do it by yourself. You don't need a man. And I think my story is like living proof, not saying that all women would do this, but living proof that you need a man, because I don't think a father, you could correct me if I'm wrong right now, Chris. This is what happened with my kid. My kid's mom, she met a guy, and I think like on a 3rd date, they went camping, and she left my 8-year-old daughter in bed with this guy's 10-year-old son. Wow. And they went away for 14 hours in the room, locked the door for 14 hours. And of course, this kid's a little perv, and he says all kind of sexual things to my daughter. And
Tries to kiss her.
He tries to kiss her and he says sex things my daughter has never even heard. And he at the breaking point, my youngest daughter, who was there too, she tells him she's going to tell. So he grabs a knife and he puts it to her throat and says, "If you tell, I'm going to kill you," and proceeds to stab her Barbie doll like this. So this is all that happened. I find it hard to believe that any man is putting his daughter in that bed with that 10-year-old boy. Like, first of all, I don't think most women would do that. My kid's mom is just a different kind of person. But I don't think, would you do that? Like, I cannot imagine myself thinking, you know what? This is totally fine for my 8-year-old daughter to be in bed with this boy while I go in the room with his dad for 14 hours.
Here's the caveat too. He also has a daughter. And when we spoke to them, he asked that same question to him and he said, "Would you ever do that?" And he said, "No, I would never let my baby go with some random kid." Then why did you let her do it? He looked at her and she said, he's even telling you.
He's telling you right now, he would never do that. But he's just thinking, like, okay, well, I'm going to go in this room. I'm going to have sex. I'm going to do whatever. He's not thinking about your daughter. So you have to think about your daughter.
Right.
But she didn't. And another thing that I learned about court is that didn't matter. Like, all these things are saying, well, he's just a kid. So technically it's not like sexual assault or anything because he's a kid also.
It's kid on kid crime.
It's kid
so
on
we can't
kid.
take them away from him.
So all she did was tell the social workers, okay, well, yeah, we let the kid go back to his mom's. They won't be in the same room anymore since then.
Talk about terrible, unprofessional, stupid adults.
Oh no! Worst of all, though, is after the case worker left and the child custody, was closed. They moved in and now they're engaged and getting married.
They literally just waited until the court was done and the child custody. They said, "Oh, okay. Well, see, she hasn't had them together alone since then, so we're all good." And literally right after that, she went right back to doing exactly what she was doing.
And the judge said, "If it happens again, then yes, we'll have to do
it."
So
in the world,
literally,
they're getting married in like a month.
And that's what happened in our situation. But this is what I'm saying. There is no common sense in family law. That's what I've learned going into this. I went in thinking it like naive. Hey, I'm gonna go. I have the truth on my side.
Right.
I have goodness on my side.
So naive.
I have righteousness on my side. I'm gonna go in there and tell them the truth, and they're gonna understand. No, they didn't. They never understood. I kind of think if I was a woman and the roles were reversed, I would have lost those kids. Like, if a man did that, he's not seeing his kid because it's already a preconceived notion that men are, we're toxic or we're the
Especially
bad guys in California for sure.
Well, let's talk about that real quick, and I want to direct it towards Julia. What do you think about this whole feminist movement? This we'll call it a feminist movement. You can recall it whatever you think it is. But this term used, toxic masculinity, as if we're trying to demonize men and that being a man is bad. What I've found is that toxic masculinity usually stems from boys who grew up to be men who were not raised with fathers. So what is your take on the whole feminist movement now and toxic masculinity and this new narrative that we're using to divide the genders and recreate new ones?
I think I'm like gearing up for it because I've thought about this so much too. I think it's dangerous. It's not that I don't think there are evilness in both sides of the spectrum. You have evil men and you have evil women. And it's almost like they put those on pedestals and they say, look, because there is this evil men and this evil woman, now all of them are evil and you have to hate each other. And it's the same with toxic positivity, where they do this with multiple companies and they say, hey, you got to be happy all the time. And if you're unhappy and people, throw you negativity, you got to take them out of your life. You're like, wait, hold on. Criticism and some negativity in your life is actually good. You should listen to what other people say and criticize so that you grow as a person. If you're always shunning what other people are saying, then you're not growing as an individual. And I learned that the hard way too, because when you're single by yourself, sometimes you don't hear enough about yourself to change. When you go into a relationship, it's harder because you're hearing it from the other person. Like, hey, you got to change this. It's trash. I think that if you allow somebody to dictate what you view of an entire population, an entire race, this goes for anything.
Right.
That's really dangerous.
Right.
You should not label everyone. I mean, when 9/11 happened, you should have not labeled all Muslims as bad just because they were terrorists. It's
Right.
the same concept. Why are all men evil just because there are a few who are being labeled as such? Why are all
Right.
women crazy just because there's a few who are labeled as such?
A
It's
few,
not true.
yeah. Just kidding.
It's not true, obviously. So
Right.
you just got to be very, very careful. You know?
Well, and like we said, it's to create a narrative, and
Mhm.
whoever needs to be the evil one to push a policy to create a business, that's all we've done. Unfortunately, we're still, we're back to black people are oppressed, women are oppressed, men are toxic. And that seems to be where we sit today, and everyone's sort of representing themselves, fighting those battles online, this, that, and the other thing, and then we're hitting the streets and we're doing crazy things, and then what does that do when you have a mass shooting, typically because young white men grow up without fathers in the home? That is one of the key root causes of mass shootings. Well, what do? We crank up some gun policies, we disarm. So anytime there's a tragedy, let's fly some planes into some buildings, say some terrorists are out to get you, and then we're going to take away your freedoms, and we're going to get back to you probably never. And then we're going to find other ways, like, a virus that is no deadlier than, I don't know, there are so many more things that are deadlier than this virus that we're getting rid of menthol cigarettes now. Isn't that exciting?
I feel like they just do things randomly. Like,
To confuse
I don't know.
us.
I'm telling you, I know a lot of black people. I don't know one black person that was like, yes, finally, menthol cigarettes are out of there.
They're saving our lives.
I was so scared. They almost had me for a second. Like,
yeah.
You need to find a common enemy. That's what they need. They need to distract you from what's really going on.
Like Aunt Jemima? What is that? They're like, I know what to help black people.
My dad said this. He goes, I've looked at that syrup thing for years, and all I thought was, she's probably a great cook.
Yep.
It was never about, that's representative of slavery and this and that. Look, the past is the past. We've learned a lot from it. But it seems like they're trying to get the new generation to get upset over it again instead of moving forward from it. Let's erase it.
You gotta talk about it, but you gotta then talk to move forward, not talk to get mad again. You gotta have constructive conversation, and that's the problem with every fight that there ever is on Facebook and on personal life between moms and dads who are divorced. Every time that we have a conversation with his ex, it seems to end well, and then she goes home and talks to her dude, and it goes right back to square one. And it's almost like that's the thing. We try and reach a pass where we're all together moving forward for the greater good of the kids, and then here comes the government. Just no, remember, you hate each other.
Is a
Come
microcosm.
on. I need you guys to fight so that you don't focus on me because I'm the problem.
Right.
It's just that.
And what do you what do you think that we need to do as those having these conversations? We're listening, we're learning, we're the biggest thing that I think that the three of us are obviously doing, because I could tell you that years ago I wouldn't be having this conversation on both sides of the aisle of it would just be I'm right, you're wrong. Instead of going, I make mistakes too, I'm trying to learn from them, this and that. What is it that sort of separates those who sort of are open-minded, who see what's going on and see it as a bunch of distraction, noise, manipulation, just absurdities, and go, I'm not participating in that. I want to participate in the coming together. And I know the world's not perfect, and I know I'm not perfect, and I know we have a lot of things to heal from. I want to do that instead of we need to push back and da da da. I mean, why aren't we, what has kept you two from attacking the family courts and picketing and beating on your ex's door and smashing your windows? Like, they must see that to a degree we are restrained and that we're not the monsters that they say that we are. you know, that we're doing our best to articulate where we're coming from and do it in a peaceful, healthy manner. But that doesn't seem to work.
I've learned in all my time of doing this that you got to get I know you say like we've learned a lot, and we have I've learned so much just on my own about like patience, because I've had to learn, because man, at times I did want to go just beat the door down or anything. Right. And so many people tell me, man, if I were you, I would just beat that guy up and I would just do this. And I'm like, okay, but and I understand like some cases, but where would that get me? I think to answer your question, I think what the world is really missing and why this stuff can continue is we don't have the necessary empathy needed to make these changes or to understand where we're coming from. Me and you can talk about this and we have a level of empathy for each other's situation because we already went through it. But I find it harder talking to people who's gone through similar things or something close to it. Easy. We're always like, yep, I understand. That makes sense. This is right. Me saying that, them saying that. Talking to someone whose marriage has been perfect for 20 years, then it's usually, well, you did marry him. Well, you probably should have did this. Well, I would never do that if I were you. Or I would never, like, how? That's
not solution-based thinking. That's just like, just gonna pour salt on that wound.
Yeah. That's usually because it's hard that goes for pretty much anything. It'd be really hard to find a person who's never been poor to empathize with a person who's struggling every day. That's when people say, oh, if you just work hard, you can be rich. Hard work makes income. No, you know why that's not true? Because show me one person working 3 jobs, because I know a couple people working 3 jobs
who are rich.
Who was rich.
Yeah.
If that was the case, then everyone who's out there working 80 hours a week, back-breaking labor. I got a friend who in construction and he literally works 60 hours a week. He's not rich. Right. But then you have senators who come to work whenever they feel like it and put in 3 hours a week, making $160,000 a year. So
even more than that, and they make that as a lifetime salary, and they get free healthcare.
Free healthcare is what gets me, because they argue over our healthcare night and day, but they make sure that they get free healthcare in their own.
Don't get me started on healthcare.
Like,
and when why are we still paying the president when he's done? Who came up with that stupidity?
I don't know.
Most of them get book deals or movie deals after that. They can go be famous.
The greatest thing they ever did, the greatest thing a rich person ever did, was convince poor people that poor people is their problem. Like, the tax problem is other poor people. It's not us. It's poor people not paying their way. What? They convince us that we're the problem with each other?
Do you think not the fact that they're taking too much from us? Yeah.
Do you think that people just have trouble thinking for themselves?
Definitely.
And having you think critical. I think critical thinking is the most important thing we can teach our kids. It's to evaluate and gather information and not just see and because when I watch the news now, I can read it and go, none of that is none of what you're saying is happening is evident out here. So what you're saying is a lie. So every time you tell me COVID's cranking up, never seen it. I've never seen it once. But then other people will say, well, I've seen it. Okay. Well, do you know it's COVID? Well, that's what they diagnosed. I was like, okay, well, you know that they're diagnosing COVID because there's money involved in it. There's incentivized money to make everything COVID. You know, they're going to start letting people who name their kids COVID, they're going to get money for it. You know, you name your firstborn COVID, we're going to give you a stimulus check.
Ooh. You know, you laugh about that, but there were babies named after the whole pandemic. We've had a quarantina. We've had, COVID. There was some other one that was crazy.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
That's the thing. People don't want to think for themselves, and they just want you to make it easier for them. If people thought for themselves, marketing would not be a $1 billion industry, because they wouldn't need it. But the fact that you can take one incident and go to 3 different news channels and get 3 completely different stories tells you that, bro, this isn't the news. The news is a business as well. They sell information, pieces of information that they want to give you.
I mean, just look at Facebook. Facebook will change your line to benefit what you think. They're not going to give you information that will, change your mind. They're going to give you information that will affirm your mind.
Right.
So when you do reach that person that disagrees with you, you are raging.
But you know why they do that? Right. Because we want that.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't search the internet looking.
Challenge.
Yeah, we want to confirm what we already believe. So if you're Republican,
that's just human nature. They take advantage of human nature and they exploit it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But what you should be doing is finding contradictions in the stories that you're hearing and that you believe. Like, okay, let me see if I can disprove this or if this isn't true before you go to your friends and be like, this is what I know. And then it gets spread like wildfire. And now, we have these COVID's killing everybody, or, the next thing that's going to happen.
What happened to the flu and cancer? Does cancer, like, we still sell products that give people cancer, but we don't care? Well, since when does the government care about lives? They only care about lives when they're not, profiting from them. Mm-hmm. If they cared about lives, we wouldn't be having a discussion about fatherlessness.
Yep.
Which is a much bigger killer pandemic than COVID. I'm sorry.
Because they just look at numbers. They don't look at people.
We already have the stats, folks. So if you're a judge or you're an attorney and you make a living doing this and you don't, and you know the science and you look at it, you are like a piece of crap, but you are a criminal. You are a terrible human being. If you profit off the pain of others, knowing what it does, and you use that, you use my money or Bakari's money or Julia's money to pay for your family, you're a piece of shit.
Everybody wins. You know how most people pay for it? Credit cards. Most people go into debt to pay for their lawyers and their court fees, and then the banks win, and then it just trickles up to everybody paying for these things. Now you're $25,000 in debt because someone took you to court 6 different times
for no reason.
I had a friend who took him to court 4 times and requested that he paid her lawyer fees as well as his own. Now, because he made so much more money than she did, and they felt like it was a legal reason, that's what they did. They're like, okay, well now. So she has an incentive, like she's like, this is a great, reason for me to do this. I don't have to pay anything. Right. 2, I'm not working steady hours. Right. He is like, he has to call off work every time. And jobs don't care like that. They're not like, I completely understand.
Yep. Right.
Because I remember I told my boss and she was like, well, next time, can you let me know ahead of time? Yes. Next time she takes my kids, I'll let you know 2 days in advance. Like, how do I know when that's going to happen?
It's usually last minute too.
Yeah, it's usually like, and that's the thing with my kid's mom. She's great at antagonizing me. She's like, even though I know I'm not going to give you these kids, I'm going to say, hey, yeah, it's your time to come pick them up. Great. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as I get there, she's like, you would change your mind. Like,
so much that we've had to carry the divorce paper in the car just in case we got to call the cops to write her up for not giving us kids. It just sits
in the car because we know.
You should just tattoo it on your ass, and that way you can show the cop your ass and be like, look at this. It says it right here on my ass.
And I don't mind that the government playing the games they play with guns, and I mean, I do mind, but I'm saying I understand that. But with children and these, you will never love anything more than you love your kids. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
Our children are the perfect weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do this, like I said, it creates dysfunctional adults who do dysfunctional things that create more dysfunctional policy that make people rich.
Mm-hmm.
So
they want it broken.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. I've never played this game before. This came up in my head right now. We're going to play this little game. I don't know if I'm ever do it again. We're going to see how it goes. So I'm going to mention things that I've experienced. Okay. And I'm not going to go into detail with my experience. I want you to go either say, yes, this has happened to you. And I want you to tell us a little bit about it. So in this divorce world, custody world, let's talk about some of the things that we've experienced. So in my case, I have experienced a drawn out custody battle, not only on her lawyer's behalf, but mine as well, because they really kind of do this together. If you think that you're hiring an attorney, not to say that they don't exist, but hardly, that your attorney and their attorney are not like, all right, we know what these people make. Let's drag this thing out for 30 grand and then we'll settle. Mm-hmm. Okay. Has that happened to you?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Tell
definitely.
us a little bit about it.
My lawyer went over there and he talked to her lawyer, and I swear they talked for like 20 minutes. I mean, I might be crazy, but I felt like they were kind of chuckling a little bit. Like they were too, not saying that they were like best friends, but they were too close for my comfort.
They play golf together.
Exactly. Like I felt like they weren't like we're like stalling at each other, like, oh yeah. But our lawyers are just like, hey, yeah, so you know.
And then they come
like
back.
They did that last week to Susie and Jim. You know what I mean? Like they just did them, and now they're here doing Bakari and his wife.
They're playing us.
And yep.
Mm-hmm. Literally happened.
False allegation.
Why do they need to know how much we make?
Oh, 1,000 of them. We have 25 open CPS calls, like Child Protective Services calls on us. 25. They came to our house, and the crazy part about this is social workers and lawyers and people off record, they usually talk to me and agree with me and give me advice. Then why don't you do this on record? Like, help me. But they're just like, I can see you're a great dad, and I can see you really love your parent. It's like, you don't know how many people have done that to me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, then help me. What do you? And they're like, hands are tied. And I asked, how many times is it illegal? When is enough? When is she going to get in trouble for making all these calls to you guys? Because they only came to about 3, but she told me just because she cared a little bit. I was like, oh, thank you. But she was like, there's 25 of these, dude. Like, you're going to have to go back to family court.
Are you not seeing a pattern? You're not locking me up and you can't prove anything. Are you not seeing that this is a pattern?
Yeah, and she felt bad, but then she said, well, there's nothing we can do. And I asked, she said, there is literally I said, so hypothetically, I could call you every single day for the next 6 months. She said, yes, you literally can, and we'll look into it every single time. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. How is that? Where's the common sense in that?
Why would they want that? Yeah, just keep bothering us.
Just to give you like a taste into the kind of things that she was calling them about, we got them phones, and after about a month, she wouldn't take them to her house anymore, so they could just have them here. So every time that they were there, we couldn't talk to them just by calling her phone. So we did the same thing, right? We got them back here, and we said, okay, well then you can't text them the whole week that they're here either. You can just call them on our phone. So we blocked her number on their phone. Mm-hmm. And every time that it was her time to call, she would call the phone just to write down that she was blocked. And so she wrote all of those times down on the paperwork to court and said, here are the 52 times that I called and I was blocked.
How about 52 times you called and you're a psychopath? Because you called 52 times.
You know, like it's like she knows. We came to agreement.
And we have a message that we told her, hey, your number's blocked because you didn't take the phones. So now we're going to block your number. You can talk to them the same amount of time that we talk to them. But your number's blocked on their phone. Oh, okay, that's fine. I understand.
But the problem is we have so many, we have reactionary things that we have to do. It's like, hey, I bought them phones because she canceled their phones because she didn't want to talk so much. I'm like, okay, well, I'll buy them phones if you don't want to pay for it. Here, they can take, when they're with me, you can text them. I don't care. And when they're over there, I can text them and it'll be all fine. But then she said, no, they're going to keep their phones here. But then she would just text them all crazy. But then when they're there, we can't talk to them at all. I'm like, that's not fair. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we'll just do the same thing.
It's not about logic. It's about you are making a conscious effort to be a good person and not fight with them. And she doesn't like that you're not upset. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't like that your kids like you. And she doesn't she doesn't like anything. They're miserable, selfish, loathing people that probably maybe came from that dysfunction, or they're, like I said, they're spoiled. They either came from being spoiled brats, single children that got too much, or they were abused and didn't get enough, or got too much negativity. Either way, they're in survival mode. That's literally how they cope with life.
But do you ever wonder about their camp? Like, I wonder, like, is there she has 2 brothers, a dad. Like, is there no one telling her? Where are the men saying, hey, leave that guy alone?
Well, because where do you think she learned it from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but there's no one over there saying, hey.
I don't think
if they did, she doesn't talk to them.
Yeah.
My mom would not let me do that. There was no way she would let me.
My mom yelled at me all the time when I was being a jerk in response. Mm-hmm. And supported her. And I was like, but Mom, she was doing this. Yeah. And she never, for a while, my mom didn't, got duped a little bit. Let's say that my ex was very she knew how to get her flying monkeys, and getting my family or friends over on her side was a tactic.
Yeah, definitely.
Now let me ask you guys, because I honestly thought about this so often. Like when I first met his kids, I like fell in love with them, and I was like, well, immediately, you know, I'm part of the family. No matter what, I just love them like they were my own. Even if I didn't birth them, they're my own. And I asked her this sincerely one day because I said, what would you prefer? Because it seems like you hate me for no reason other than I'm now with your ex. Do you not
And you're white. Don't forget that.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, those are excuses. She hates you because she hates herself.
But to be honest, her mom is white. I don't know why she hates me if her mom is white.
Maybe you're not the good white.
I mean,
maybe you're
she's the OG white. I don't know.
You're off white.
I'm off white. But I sincerely asked her, I said, isn't me loving your kids the ultimate thing you would prefer for me to do? Or the ultimate things that you would want for a stepmom stepping into this role? Wouldn't loving your kids be the only thing that matters to you? Like I'm responsible and I'm here for them and I love them as much as you love them. No, what she wants is for me to not love them as much as she does, or for them to think I don't. Because she literally said, your stepmom can't love you because she's white. And that stuck with them. And I just thought, my goodness, like to this day, they still have trouble saying I love you back. And they are warming up to it again. But it's been like 2 years. And I thought, you damaged them for no reason.
Those children, your children and my children, are nothing but a narcissistic supply to these people. It's about what those kids, how they make the parent feel. It's not a unconditional love. It's conditional. It's you do as I say. You love me for what I do and what I don't do, and you don't love this person anymore that helped birth you. You know, we didn't do the birthing, but we are an ingredient. You can't make a cake without beating some eggs. And eggs got beat, ladies. There's my little inappropriate adult humor. But anyway, so it's all about the kids are just a supply. It's just, I'm going to use this. I couldn't get what I want. This person no longer is doing what I want. I can't control them anymore. They won't fight with me. They don't love me. They won't fill my needs. So I'm going to use these children to hurt this person and use these children to fill the emptiness in me. And then I'll probably find a replacement player for him in the bedroom as well, and use him as well to fill all this emptiness in me so that I can feel like a person that matters. I don't know what it was.
Exactly what I think. And to Dee's point, Dallas, women do equate breakups to child abandonment, because every single time, we broke up 10 times, she said that instead of saying we're breaking up, she would always say, you're abandoning our family. You're breaking up with our family. You're tearing apart our family.
Yeah,
like you're leaving your kids.
No,
that's a tactic.
I'm leaving.
Never once did I ever hear you're leaving me. She would always say you're leaving us.
It was to get you to stay with them for feeling guilty, using that false narrative. And it hung on to me for a while, because we don't want our families and our kids to grow up without moms and dads and this and that. At the end of the day, I got to that point where my eyes were clear enough, and I had just been on my knees, both with my behavior, both with her behavior. And I was like, I got to show my kids something different. And I fought the good fight, and I can't do any more on my end. And I knew that when I walked away, this is what I'd be facing. And
I had no idea. No idea.
You had no idea.
It wasn't like this though.
We had a couple of months of goodness, and I used to even post on Facebook like, "Oh man, I'm so lucky. I'm not like these other guys with baby mama drama and all this stuff." Because we had a good 6 months there where it was like we would FaceTime each other during school audience. When I couldn't make it, I had to work. She would FaceTime me, and I would watch the the kids do their thing at school. And when she couldn't make it, I would FaceTime her and we would talk. She would come in when she picked up the kids and we would talk and it'd just be a good time.
She would message me things about the kids, like normal things. And then we got engaged and it just.
Yeah.
And that's typical too. Once the relationship gets more serious, that's sort of a oh my God, next level stuff. And they it's something changes inside of them. I've not been in a relationship, although I've been out with people and dated and whatever, sort of working on my stuff and myself and things like this. And I'm in no rush. There was a replacement for me within weeks. And really before that, because there was men waiting for when I didn't jump through my hoops anymore, and she knew that I was going to leave. There were a couple, waiting in the wing.
In case of emergency, break glass dudes.
2 months later, 3 months later, there's a guy living in the house that she said was bad news, that she had dated for a little while before when we broke up, and said that she wanted no part of. He's a drunk. He's angry. And I'd flash his picture up here, and that'll happen probably on one episode. But he is an addict.
Why do they always pick the worst possible people at that? If you want a replacement, pick a replacement. No big deal.
Desperation.
But why would you pick the work? Like this guy, he doesn't work. He doesn't.
Well, let me tell you, the pattern falls in with who was their father. Was their father like this? Was their father absent? Yeah. So even negativity breeds attention. Maybe they don't feel good about themselves. Maybe they have abandonment issues. People who are less than are easier to manipulate and control. It's much easier to manipulate an insecure drunk guy than it is someone who's fairly sober for the most part all the time, who's educating, who's aware, and that's gonna draw. They don't want someone who's going to draw a line in the sand and say no, that's not okay.
Exactly.
Can't manipulate that.
They don't want someone to challenge what they're thinking. Just like human nature, they want someone to agree with them. So there are times where me and Bakari, we will disagree on how we should react to something that she did or what the kids are saying, and we will work with each other to come up with maybe a better solution than what we want to instinctively react on. And I don't think she has that. I think she has the way she wants to react and somebody agreeing with her, or in our case, which I think is even worse, he instigates it. He wants her to react this way because he likes the divide. And we've noticed that he is like that. He's very manipulating, because when we were talking about what happened in the trailer with his son and our oldest, he would whisper to her things that he would want her to say and not her coming up with her own words.
I think the worst thing she ever told me, and the thing I will never forgive ever, or I will remember this for the rest of my life, but the worst thing she ever told me was, well, that's not fair to me. Speaking of what happened to my kids with the whole like pervert guy saying all this stuff to them and putting a knife to my daughter's throat, the reason she can't leave is because that's not fair to her, because then she'll be losing someone she loves.
So it was about her. She literally showed you what goes on in her head, and I
can't compute that.
Yeah,
like my kids are my whole life. The way I dated, the way I moved, everything. I purposely never dated a woman with boys. I was like, that's not for me. I don't want that. I might be just overthinking it, but still, just for me, I'm not gonna.
But you know what? Better to overthink it and be conscious of it than to just not care.
But I'm saying, how do you not care?
And also, statistically,
because most
kids
of the time
get molested by people they know, either family members, stepbrothers, cousins. So if you have that in your mind and you are a woman with two young girls and you are dating someone with an older son, it's not to say that he's going to do it, but you got to be on high alert. You can't just let them alone in a room. You got to say, you know what? I don't think he's going to do it. I trust him, but I don't trust him completely because I just met him. And even if I didn't just meet him, I'm not going to give him the opportunity to act on it.
Literally, you just met him? Like, how do you just meet someone?
If it happens, please put your kids first. Why do I have to say that? Please put them first. They don't have anyone to fight for them. They only have you.
Right.
They don't know.
I heard statistically too, and I've heard it more than once, and I may be misquoting it, but it's relatively in the same ballpark, is that the majority of either sexual assaults or child abuse usually comes from mom's new spouse or boyfriend.
Mhm.
It's
Oh,
like
that's definitely
70,
true. I've read
it's like
that.
70%
Yeah,
of
it's sick.
kids who are sexually abused or abused at all
Mhm.
is the father. And then you talk about, I believe the term is called filicide, where you know the new relationship mom's in that overpowers the relationship that she has with the kids, and many times that boyfriend has either harmed the kids, beaten the kids, or killed the kids. And the mom, she's not very mentally healthy, will literally go along with whatever this man does because there's
This literally happened to her sister.
yeah.
Her sister got a new guy in her life. He beat up the kid, and so her dad won
Mhm.
and took
Mhm.
the kid away.
It took that though. I'm
Yeah.
like, there were other
Yeah.
signs, but
It's
Kids
literal
have to
fear.
get hurt,
Mhm.
like physically beaten or murdered,
Yeah.
not just emotionally abused. Like we don't.
as we learned,
The
It can't
courts
be
wait.
almost.
Yeah, they don't understand. That's why we should get rid of family court completely. And let's
Mhm.
just put that out there. Family court is not designed for families.
Mm-mm.
Keep your ass in criminal court, and when I commit a crime, you can call me and I'll
Mhm.
be there. But until then, because he said she said battles, if we're he said she saying about our kids and fighting over children, this is for psychologists and mental health professionals, not for judges and attorneys who charge ridiculous fees that they're not
Mhm.
even worth.
Because what did the judge tell you? When we told him what happened and all of it was, discussed, and ultimately he said it stays the same. He basically said, well, if she had been stabbed, then yes, we could have taken
Right.
them
We
away.
can't do anything until
But
someone
we
gets hurt.
can't. Exactly. We can't because he never went through with it. It's just
Well,
a threat.
I said, hey, guys, what do? I have a text message, multiple ones, where it states that this current man that's living at the house with my kids is this, that, and the other thing. I can show them to you. Yeah, unfortunately, that's just hearsay. We can't really do
Mhm.
anything about that, although that may be true. Until something happens, we can't interject. Just like law enforcement to get involved after someone's already hurt. You're just investigating a crime, and you're not protecting anyone.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
At
And
all.
usually what the courts do is they protect the wrong person
Yep.
from
It's
me or Bakari or another one who's never done anything. There's no evidence of it, but there could be clear and convincing evidence on the other side. And they just go, because what do they know? They know that these two are coming back for more.
exactly.
As long
And-
as I leave them in the wrong hands, there'll be an issue later.
Mhm.
Oh man, I never thought about it like that. As
It's the
long as you
same.
keep them with the wrong person, they
And
know
it's-
this guy is going to fight
And
forever.
I'm going to keep fighting forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay an attorney. I tell you that much. So sorry, guys. I would rather spend another 30 grand going to law school
Yep.
than
Oh,
paying an
amen.
attorney. Sorry.
man.
So if a pro
They're
bono
not
attorney
even
wants,
good.
if a pro bono attorney wants to help out Bakari or me, then we will have you on our podcast. We'll promote you and
Mhm.
do all that, but we're not paying you another dime.
Yeah, I can't do it. I've paid so much money to see so little in return.
Nothing.
And the thing about it is they can take you as much as they want. I've gone to court twice and had in court say, never mind. Like,
Mhm.
I'm off work.
It's
I'm
like-
over here prepared. I've interviewed 4 lawyers, paid for one.
Mhm.
And then you say, I changed my mind.
Mhm.
Like in court, you're trying to take my car. I gave you the house, everything in a divorce. Didn't ask for a single penny, just left.
Right.
But then you just get angry because I'm in a relationship with someone else and saying, well, I'm just going to take your car then. The car that you paid for, the car that's completely yours, but I'm just going to take it.
And the courts entitle these people.
Mhm.
And then we go to court. They summon me. Hey, we're coming for your car. And then I get there and I'm like, oh, wait, she just wants the car? No, fine. I bought another car and I didn't want to have to finish these payments anyway. It's all yours.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, wait, that's not going to hurt you? Never mind. I don't want it.
People-
Literally what happened. She's
Yep.
like, never mind. And I tell the lawyer, I'm like, no, she brought me here for this car. She's taking this car.
Right.
And he's like, no, well, like the judge doesn't seem like he's happy with the tit for tat. Like, we should just drop this, let sleeping dogs lie. And I'm like, what? No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, because they don't want you to just end it.
Yeah.
Because they want it to come up again.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So let's talk about misuse of police. How many times have police been called during exchanges for no reason? Because you wouldn't do what you were told. Not that you broke a law, not that you, let's just say you asserted your rights as a parent. And for instance, I'll just make up the fact that you were asked to watch the kids or something. You know, I'm just making this up. I never experienced this. And instead of taking them to daycare, you took the day off to watch them, right? And decided to spend the day with them because you only have every other weekend. So you made a parental decision that's within your rights, right? And because you didn't do what you were told, you got the police called on you.
This poor sucker can't even spend time with his.
No, you're a piece of shit.
We can probably speak on police being called on us and us calling police because it's a system that is overused and yet is of no use to anyone.
If you're the right person or the good person in the situation, police are going to tell you 9 times out of 10, you got to go to court. We can't really help you. Like, it makes sense. But if like I've had the police call on me several times for, I don't even know why. Like, I think I had the cops called on me one time for just not leaving my own house. I'm like, but this is my house. Like, I pay the bills here. They're like, yeah, but she wants you to leave. I don't want to leave my kids and everything's here. This is my house. Like, no domestic violence, no anything. I never put my hands on any woman or anything like that. But still, I'm just saying no. And the police come. She's like, well, I'm going to call the police on you. Because for some reason, wrongdoers feel like the cops are their personal, like, bodyguards. Like, oh, this is what I do. And then the cops come and I'm just sitting on my couch that I paid for in my house that I'm paying for saying no, like I just don't want to leave. And then he was nice enough to give me till the morning because it's like 10 o'clock at night. And he's like, in my house. I would like to keep reiterating that.
Thanks, officer, like, public servant that works for me, telling me what to do.
But she was the one who called. So she's like, well, she's called. I'm trying to help her. And so he tells her everything. He's like, hey, you can't just kick him out with nowhere to go. He has a right to this house too, which I just think is like common sense. But he's like, hey, she'll let you stay on the couch. She'll let me. He's like, tell her in the morning. Let's just not make a big deal about it. Like, you don't have to leave tonight, but do you have somewhere to go in the morning? And I'm like, yeah, I do. It's fine.
you're just trying to, like, it's such a ridiculous thing. You know, Julia, one of the things that I like to ask women whenever possible, whenever I'm speaking to one who's rational, is what do you think about the whole Violence Against Women's Act and how what seems to have occurred is that women can make false claims of abuse, use them for custody battles, leverage, get men kicked out of their own home. Because if there's a domestic violence issue, then the mother and the child is protected. The man must exit. I believe that's laws in a lot of states. Do you think that the Violence Against Women's Act was intended to protect women or it was intended to create profit?
I think it's always intended to create profit in some way or another. I think this benefits a few that are worthy of it, but it also benefits a few that are just knowing how to use the system. Because when we have to deal with that, and in our personal experience with calling the cops on any kind of issue, she has benefited from it every single time, and we have not. For instance, we were, had the cops called on us when the thing happened with the son and our daughter, because she told us during our week. And when it came time for them to pick them up, we said, hey, we don't think it's safe. So we're going to keep them until we have, social work come and talk to you guys. Right. And she called the cops on us and showed the paperwork and said, hey, I'm allowed to take my kids. And so the cops came to us. They told us, if you aren't, if you can't give us the kids, we're going to hold you in contempt of a court order and you can go to court and go to jail possibly. And so we're like, okay, well, I guess there's nothing we can do. Here are the kids. We're just going to keep doing our thing here. So the same thing happened, but for stupider reasons. We traveled. We came back. She said, you can't have them because of COVID, even though I work in the hospital and worked there for years and years and years. Now COVID's a problem. Okay. So we called the cops and said, same thing. Here are the paperwork. Right? We can have the kids. They told her the same thing. They said, well, we can't physically take the kids, but you can go to court and take her to jail if possible. Okay. So we can't take the kids, but what we can do is pay more money to go to court and potentially write this up on her record. But that doesn't mean that anything will be done, because one time, 2 times, 3 times that she kept the kids doesn't necessarily mean a judge will be like, oh yeah, she can't have the kids anymore. Here you go.
Right.
So basically all that's doing is setting me up to lose $10,000.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. It's not
That's
about
lovely.
helping. It's not about doing the right thing. It's not about the best interest of kids. It's about setting you up to defend yourself. Having to hire an attorney for a false allegation because you're so scared that you're going to lose your rights to your kids that you get an attorney. You don't play with that. You don't represent yourself. You don't leave room for error in that. And I've had to do that. You know what I mean? So I've had false allegations against me when I had to file for custody. We broke up. I didn't see my kid for 7 weeks. I said, I'm going to file if you don't respond to me. I filed. 6 days later, I had a restraining order put on me. And I went to court for that. That restraining order got dropped. And guess who had another baby with me? And guess who didn't see that red flag? Me. When I said I had work to do, Bakari, Julia, how many red flags have we ignored in relationships before? And we're like, oh my God, we're so stupid. And we're paying for that shit now. And we're like, oh my God.
Time to count the red flags.
My God, I have 2 beautiful boys. So I'm glad I ignored those red flags. You know, hindsight's 2020, but yeah, these are the things that we go through, and these are the things we don't get to articulate in court, and we don't get to speak about in courtrooms, and we're shamed and we're silenced. And you know, I may get thrown in jail for this podcast, and guess what? When I get out, I'm gonna keep doing this podcast. I will not stop. For the one thing that you can't scare me about is fighting for my kids.
Oh, and speaking your whatever experiences, because she's taken him to court because she said the things he says on Facebook is not good.
Yeah, and that's what bullies and abusers say.
Yeah. Is he said that's my experience.
I know she can write whatever she wants to write. Yeah. Ask me what she writes on Facebook. I don't know. I don't know because I don't check. Who cares? She can write whatever she wants. But I don't like. I tell everyone this who ask me. I don't badmouth her just to badmouth her. I don't badmouth her at all. Actually, I just tell my experiences. If those experiences are great, then you're going to hear great experiences. Like early in the beginning, if they're awful, you're going to hear awful experiences. Right. It's not me who are making you the bad person. It's your actions. And if trust me, if I do some awful things, feel free. Hey, I tell on myself most of the time. I'm like, yep. Was he a great husband in the beginning? Nope. I was in my 20s. I was married. I was awful. Like I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. I took all of that, learned from it, and kind of like implement it in this relationship to be better now. I feel like those mistakes made me who I am today. Exactly. But when I say, was I a great husband? No. She can say that until her face turns blue, and I'll say, you're right. Yeah. Was I a great dad? Yes. Every time. From day one, I was just good at it. It's just she would say it all the time. Like, they just like you. I don't know why. All they do is play with you. All you do is play. You're the fun dad. No, I'm not. I don't know. You're just a good dad. Julia, just, is it not ridiculous that a mother would hate the fact that their kids love the father?
I don't understand
selfish
that.
Piece of shit you are.
Because I look at them, their relationship, and I don't feel out of place. And I'm the stepmom, meaning I'm not, I was accepted into the family. They didn't just have me out of nowhere. I always look at their relationship and I think, man, I'm lucky. Like, look at how, amazing of a dad he is. And I can't wait till we have our own baby. And he's going to be, a wonderful dad to that baby too. And I never look at it with jealousy. Like, oh, look how awful it is that they like him more than me. Like, why does that matter? They love their parents and that's all that matters. I swear she used to think I was doing something behind her back, and that's why we would argue about that sometimes. Like, it's just because you let them do whatever you. No, I don't. I don't know. I just you have to convince them to love you. That's why you're winning. Like, it's a battle to begin with. It's not. What? Two parents is great. Like, we're so different. Like, she's more of a disciplinarian than I am. She's more of like, hey guys, get the house clean, do your chores. And I'm more of the fun. So we balance each other out perfectly. It's like, it works. And we got to remind each other. Like, okay, sometimes I'll have to remind him, like, hey, go do this with the kids. Oh yeah, okay. And then sometimes he'll remind me, like, hey, go do something, just you girls. Oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And so we'll just like both compliment on the things we're lacking a little bit more than the other. But it's not like, hey, I'm jealous that he's the fun one, and he's like, oh, I'm so jealous that she can keep a cleaner house or whatever the case is. Right. It's not. We just use each other's strengths to the advantage.
Yeah,
it's about
great.
I mean, you guys are describing what healthy, functional adults, imperfect. We slip,
Mhm.
but you're aware. But you're aware when you slip, and you go, "Oh God, I gotta apologize." That's another thing. Is that matters is to address and be willing to recognize, oh, I screwed up there, or that was an old reflex. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so sorry. Hard. I'll work on that, and we're going to be a work in progress to the day we die. And
that's one thing that you should tell anyone who's going through this co-parenting thing, that us together, we can slip, we can have mistakes, because it's us, and we're going to work through it, and we accept that no one's perfect. But when you're going through co-parenting, any mistake, any slip is the end of the world. Like they're going to court tomorrow, and you're going to have to talk to that. Yeah. Well, any normal person, because she makes mistakes all the time that I'm just like, well, that happens. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell her, like, I did the same thing last week. She's not going to say that. She's going to say, oh, in her mind, I did that 10 times, but this is a great time to use this to go destroy this guy.
Right.
Like, so be careful with that. That's one luxury we don't have. We always have to at least put on that face. There's no learning, even though nobody's ever had kids before. Like, these are just, you were a parent before? No, this is my first time.
Exactly.
So everything I'm experiencing.
We try to get better each time with each generation. You know what I mean?
Every year is a new kid. Like, okay, well, now I'm dealing with a 10-year-old. Oh, totally. Now I'm dealing with an 11-year-old. The next year will be 12, 13. And all of those come with different issues and different things that you've never done before. So you're not going to be perfect. So,
and each kid is different too. My 11-year-old now will not be my 11-year-old second kid 2 years from now. She'll be a different 11-year-old than our oldest one was. Right. And it's just always a learning curve. And being humble about your downfalls is so important. And to your kids too. Like, sometimes my kids will humble me and they're like, hey, you're doing this kind of wrong. And I'm like, wait, I think you're right. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, or I didn't mean to, not listen to what you're saying, because they watch everything, literally everything.
Giving, and I'm not an expert whatsoever, so I'm going to say something that some people may be like, oh, he's so full of shit, but is giving people a little grace. And I fail a lot of times with that. I give myself grace a lot, but I forget to give people a little grace and yes, being forgiving and all that stuff. Especially when you're under attack. It's been a big disciplinary 2.5-year custody battle. False allegations, new boyfriend, police being called, not seeing my kids, financial hardship, living at my dad's. This is his house, by the way. I'm waiting until I figure out if I'm going to get custody of my kids. And that's coming up on Wednesday. As you guys probably saw, nice. I posted that my kids moved this weekend, and I didn't know.
I did see that.
So I just found out today after I addressed her lawyer. And the ladies in the judge's office, and I finally was told where they live and where they'll be going to school, and I'll be told what arrangements will be made moving forward as far as our custody agreement. I said, that's not how that works. They're like, she said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I was like, it's not how I feel. I'm sorry that you feel entitled as their mother to not discuss moving at all with me and how that affects my life or theirs. And it's a very selfish, you can tell she came from I say fatherless. Her father wasn't the healthiest individual, and she would have to admit that herself, although you would swear he's a saint and I'm the devil. And I fight for every inch of my children, and he just wasn't there because he struggled growing up, maybe in his family, and he struggled with addiction, and he was sick. And I'm not saying he was a terrible person, but he had his battles, and I've had my battles with using too much alcohol, especially in my relationship. I was in it was bad, and I coped, and I could tell you what, I am so much different and healthier now, and I don't run to the same coping mechanisms and all that good stuff. So there's good parts in the pain. There is purpose in the pain for sure. But you guys, I want to thank you for coming on. We went an hour and a half strong, and I can do this another hour and a half. Yeah. But what we got to do is just have you back on another podcast. I have had
for sure.
one return guest, and I probably will bring back everybody that's been on for multiple episodes. But I wanted you guys to share. I'm going to add this back up and throw this up here because this is the Struggle is Real podcast on Facebook. If you guys want to go check that out, Bakari and Julia. And then where else can they catch it? Are you guys on YouTube, or I know you're on Spotify?
Yeah. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're practically on every podcast platform. Mm-hmm. So if you just search up The Struggle is Real and then my name, I think there's another couple, like a cook couple. I don't know why you would name it The Struggle is Real if you're cooking, but there's another Struggle is Real in there. But if you search up The Struggle is Real with Bakari, I'll pop right up there. You'll see this image that's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
And you'll get some good content, some good stories of success, some good stories of failure. Mm-hmm. Like Chris knows, man, I don't care. I'll tell you. Like I did some things where I wasn't proud of, and
very honest.
I think it helped us become the people we are today. So,
and we'll have Chris on there too.
I know you got to
share your story.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to.
Ours a little more raunchy though, so I'll be like,
hey man, that's cool. That's cool. No shirts for yours. Shirts and skins, whatever. You just tell me what to do. I'll be there. I want to continue this conversation, but. Guys, thank you so much for being on.
Sure.
Let me know too. I want to start doing the podcast thing on the Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. So I need to figure out how to go about that. But I'll reach out to you guys about that. Is there anything you want to tell our audience before we go tonight about something that we talked about? Just send them a last minute message, and just say goodnight.
There's only one thing that I really always say during my podcast and everybody is in relationships. Die a hero. Mm-hmm. Die a hero. Do not live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And I say that is I probably should have let go of some relationships way sooner than I did before we start hating each other, before all the bad and the toxic just kicks in, or resentment because you stayed longer than you knew you should. Mm-hmm. It's not bad to just walk away. Like it's not. Remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice.
I agree.
Julie, what you got?
I would
you can say live long and prosper, and we can. I was like, she's just gonna say something from Star Trek.
Yeah, I would say there are people out there who will step on you. There will, and you just you kind of have to stay strong in who you are and not let them affect you, because it is going to be really, really tough. But just focus on the good that you've got. Regardless of whether you're trying to grow yourself or trying to grow the relationship that you have. New family, focus on the good, because your kids do deserve that, and you deserve that too. And other people are always going to try to get in the way of that. They really will, especially if they're miserable themselves. They just don't. They want company.
Misery loves company.
So I think you just got to remember that, and they will hate way more the fact that they can't affect you. That is going to be more painful to them than your vengeance towards them. They want that interaction.
This is an outro, babe.
Huh?
This is an outro.
That's an outro.
I'm saying,
she's closing strong. Now that's another subject we have to talk about.
She was like, we're starting over.
I was about to engage in that.
I know. I'm really let's keep going. It's so true though.
That is true though.
Let's get together soon. Let me know. I will definitely be on your podcast, and I'd love to live stream it on all my platforms as well. And let's grow this thing. Sure. Let's grow these conversations, because our kids need us, and we need us to be healthier. So, guys, thank you so much. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Chris.